Thanks for clicking on to the Tuesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We have got a rather big contrast across the British Isles through the course of today. Mild conditions across the south where we've got cloud, we've got outbreaks of rain. Further north, under the clear skies, we've got crisp late winter sunshine. But you notice here, this is the current synoptic chart at the moment through the course of later today. We've got an area of low pressure at 980 millibars well out over the North Atlantic here. That is introducing milder air. We've got a frontal system here that is lifting gradually northwards up through Ireland, England, Wales. And what that's doing is that is increasing the southwesterly wind through the course of this evening. Nothing particularly strong, but what it's doing is dragging up some very mild conditions from northwest Africa and Iberia. And we are going to see the contrast increase through the course of tonight. Under clear skies, light winds, we could make an approach at -8, -10 Celsius. Further south, 10 or 11 for an overnight minimum. So we've got a very, very large contrast between north and south through the course of the overnight tonight. So this is the current synoptic chart, like I say. This is the current visible satellite image, and it shows that area of 980 millibar low over the Atlantic. There's the frontal system that is now starting to creep northwards over Ireland, England, and Wales, introducing in thicker cloud, outbreaks of rain, and you can see here the clear skies over southern, central, and northern Scotland here. This is the current radar of weather online. You can see still some shower activity coming through during the course of this afternoon. We've still got an area of low pressure. If we go back to the overview chart here, you can see if we skip back just a couple of frames, there's that 985 millibar low that looks as if it's crossing over Shetland. But we've still got a little bit of a breeze coming in from the west. We've had plenty of shower activity. We had a spell of fairly heavy rainfall during the early morning hours, and then with clear skies after that rain burst through. Now, we did actually also see some fairly significant increased snowfall, especially about 300 metres or so above sea level, as I was driving between Glasgow and Inverness, and actually from Inverness down to Glasgow, in fact, there was some fairly heavy snow to speak about. The A9 became a little bit snow covered, but on my journey back northwards, the clear skies and wind started to kind of fall a little bit lighter. Those roads became a bit of a skating rink. Actually, as you climb up the hill and approach to Inverness, you kind of climb up over the mountains and then kind of drop down into Inverness. As I was making that climb up, the truck was actually wheel spinning as it was climbing up the hill. I don't know if the roads were gridded or not, but certainly it turned very icy as I made an approach at Inverness at around the back of 3 this morning. So icy conditions was the case across the northern half of the British Isles through the course of this morning, but milder conditions further south. Also, incidentally, I don't know if you noticed lightning in the sky last night. I was driving south to Glasgow and I've seen quite a few flashes of lightning. Associated with that area of low pressure to the north here, we had quite a lot of instability within the atmosphere. There was some fairly cold air associated with that area of low pressure as it was dragging cold off Greenland and Iceland. Yes, it was weakening that air mass as it was crossing the UK because it crossed warmer than average North Atlantic waters. But incidentally, there was quite a lot of instability within the atmosphere, hence why we've seen the lightning activity over parts of Scotland during the latter half of last night and into the early hours of this morning. So that area of low pressure then clears out of the way. We'll see a little, very brief spell of higher pressure over the northern UK. All the while we've got that southwesterly flow. You can see the isobars pinching together a little bit. So we've got milder air moving into southern Ireland and southern UK during the course of this evening. So that's going to hold the temperatures up. But under the clear skies, light winds, and with some fresh snow on the ground, wouldn't be surprised if we see -10 during the course of tomorrow morning. Reasonably mild across the board at the moment here. You can see here a few, well, Aviemoore's only at 4 Celsius, but there is snow on the ground here. So that is helping refrigerate the atmosphere a little bit in the low levels over the Central Highlands, but generally speaking, 6s, 7s, 8s, and across the north, we've got temperatures as high as 14 Celsius in parts of the south. Now, over the next few days, by the way, wouldn't be surprised if we see 17 Celsius, believe it or not. So, like I say, this is the current visible satellite, as I've already mentioned. This is the current temperatures across Europe. Very mild across the majority of the continent, exceptions of Scandinavia and northwestern Russia, even down across Ukraine. We've got temperatures as high as 10 and 11 Celsius, into mid single figures across Poland, upper single figures across Germany, as you can see here. And we've got mild conditions into the southeast, southwestern portions of the continent as well. We've got temperatures into the low, even mid 20s in places in and around the Valencia area. So fairly mild, even warm conditions across parts of Iberia at the moment here. We've even got a 23 Celsius on the north coast of Spain, probably a little bit of Föhn effect associated with that very mild temperature in the north coast for this time of the year. Middle portions of February, very, very mild overall. You can see here the contrast when you look at the 850 temperature of the ECMWF. This is the anomaly actually. You can see slightly below average versus a firmly warmer than average. The actual 850 temperature profile here also shows the story. But as we play through this loop here, you notice that we've got very little in the way of cold air across the majority of the continent. In fact, the cold that's over Scandinavia is actually starting to exit to the northeast. As you can see, we've got a push of mild air running northwards here, and this is something that I've been alluding to in recent times with regards to the change in the Arctic Oscillation, driving warmer northwards. That raises the heights across the Arctic, across the North Atlantic and Greenland, with time potentially. But that's another story for another day here. But you can see how the warmer air associated with that low over the Atlantic lifts the warm air northwards here, and with the help of a little bit of sunshine, even Thursday and Friday afternoon, you can see here we've got a ton of very mild conditions. In fact, we've got plus 10 Celsius at 850, not that far from the southeast of England, and with any sunshine, you could easily see 17 Celsius, I think, with that southwesterly flow. So very mild air indeed for the time of the year. Continues to drive the pattern across the majority of the continent here. There's no getting away from the fact that it is milder and it is warmer and longer than anticipated. The MJO, as well as the Strat warming, has not delivered what I anticipated, and I think there is definitely something going on with this El Nino where there's a bit of a lag in the feedback process to the atmosphere, and this has definitely changed the equation, so to speak, here. It worked, the MJO and even the Strat warmings in the December, helping deliver the cold spell during the middle portions of January. I know there's quite a lot of people saying that this has been a very, very boring winter. I actually would disagree with that. Possibly if you lived in the south of England, it's probably been quite a monotonous winter, unfortunately, and that's not, I can't really do anything about that, I'm afraid. It's just the geography of where you live, and at this stage where we're at, warmer conditions is definitely winning the battle with cold. I do think the warm overall oceans, land areas, atmosphere definitely having a work. The El Nino is definitely having an influence as well. And the question is, what happens from now on? Is winter done, or do we still have a sting in its tail? I still think we've got a sting in the tail. We do have the potential of a major sudden stratospheric warming in the coming days to come. And before we end the video, we will have a quick look at the stratospheric warming situation here. But we continue to play off the ECMWF, the 850 temperature chart here. And with areas of deep low pressure moving off North America here, we do have snowstorms, ice storms, bitterly cold air getting driven south over North America. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail in the coming days as well, by the way. But as these areas of low pressure are then moving offshore into the Western Atlantic, that is pumping higher pressure. It's beefing up the Azores high. Now, we've got a very, very significant drought over northeastern Spain, Catalonia, the Barcelona area at the moment here. And unfortunately, with this type of situation here, that is not helping the atmosphere is continuing to enhance that drought situation with what's going on over North America and over the Atlantic. That is then forcing, with deepening low pressure over the North Atlantic to the western side of the Atlantic, that in turn is having a downstream effect at raising the heights across Northwest Africa, Iberia, up into France, even up into the UK. Sure, we've got glancing blows of low pressure that is skirting the western side of Europe here at the moment, but with low pressure always to the west of the UK and Ireland in general, that means that we are on the warm side, the warm sector side of low pressure. And we've got that scenario right at this very minute here. Just so happens that the front is south of Scotland. Therefore, we're in that slight colder air for a short period of time. And we are seeing snowfall and cold conditions prevail here. But it really is, you know, it's a small pocket of cold in a sea of warm conditions. If you get what I'm meaning about that, and it looks as if we're just going to maintain this mild theme overall, according to the ECMWF, for the next several days here. I don't see anything really changing in the next week to 10 days, unfortunately, here. So, like I said already enough, said this more than enough. I hold my hand up when it comes to a wrong forecast or a wrong idea. But generally speaking, I'm still quite content with the fact that December and January has played out pretty darn well at a score of 8 out of 10. February is not going to get anywhere near that. And we'll wait and see what March brings, because certainly plenty of reason to believe that we could still see cold conditions as we move into the month of March here. And we'll look at that example of why in just a second here. So real quick before we look at the stratospheric warming and also look at the global temperature anomalies for the coming days and even weeks, this is the overview chart of the ECMWF. You can see that there's areas of low pressure then exiting North America across the Atlantic. We are in the warm sector in general, so we're going to continue to see this southerly airflow here as these systems move in off the Atlantic, generally staying to the west of the UK, hence the milder conditions overall. But we do have glance and blows of frontal systems. But notice the high pressure extending from northwest Africa up through the drought zone of northern Spain, into France and into the British Isles here. So this pattern is going to maintain itself as we go through probably the next couple of weeks and the majority of the rest of this month. So where is the cold at the moment here? If it's so warm over much of Europe here, where is the cold? Well, you can see actually Greenland, the Arctic region, and the majority of northern Asia, in fact Eurasia in general, is very, very cold. Northern portions of North America, the core of the coldest conditions is over the heart of the Greenland ice cap at the moment here. Also parts of northeastern Russia, Siberia, Oymyakon, Yakutsk, that is seeing bitterly cold conditions at the moment as well. So it's generally staying on the wrong side of the pole in terms of the cold conditions. Now looking at the 10 HPA temperature anomaly, this is the anomaly compared to average. You can see here this pulse of very strong warming crossing right over the top of the pole. It looks as if we're going to see the second major sudden stratospheric warming, and by definition of a wind reversal in the mean zonal winds here, and you can see a second burst of tremendous warmth crossing right over the top of the pole. What influence will this have as we go into the month of March? Big question, I know. Remember, the various models indicating a sustained negative Arctic oscillation and even negative North Atlantic oscillation to a lesser extent. This is the month of March according to the CFSV2 and shows the blocking. We've got a negative here, incidentally just slightly to the west of the UK and Ireland here, but notice all the positive heights, North Atlantic, Greenland, Arctic, northwestern North America here, representative of a firm negative Arctic oscillation, likely in response, by the way, to that major sudden stratospheric warming that appears to be imminent on the models at least. There is cross-model agreement, that looks to be the case. Finally, where's the cold? Upcoming 7 days, right across the top of Eurasia here, warmer than average across Alaska. Notice here, watch the cold here as it then descends and sweeps across Eurasia, right into China. We could have record-breaking or near-record-breaking cold sweeping across China as the tropospheric polar vortex sweeps south. Also, North America turns colder, and incidentally, the modelling does suggest Europe gets colder as well. So I still think there's plenty to play for when it comes to this winter, even as we move into the month of March. Like, share, and subscribe. See you again tomorrow with more. Bye for now.